It's still loading.
I get those goosebumps every time, yeah, 713 to the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low-key. I'm sipping low-key and honest, flying rider. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. Cause I'm fine, you make everything go fine. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the high, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, we can throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Up the mags. Yes, sir.
Hello and welcome to Load of Mag NUFC. Back for another reaction show. Same old story though. Same old story. Let's go around the house. Chris, how are you? Apart from the match, how are you?
Apart from the match, mate, yeah, I'm absolutely fine. Had a nice weekend, and Sun was off all next week, so kids are broken up next week. But yeah, just a little bit deflated, if I'm honest. Just one of those things, though, and as I said to you pre-show, Daz, the sad thing is, or the sad reality is, that it's becoming like a regular thing, which isn't good. Particularly when you look at the other results, this weekend, where there was opportunities, for us to maybe steal a march or at least try and catch up a little bit. So yeah, really frustrating. But on a personal level, mate, I am all good. Pete, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Great weekend. Great weekend with family. Great week, in fact, with the family. But then the only other downer is Newcastle United at the moment. But it is what it is. We'll talk about it, I'm sure. Laz, how's things with you, mate?
Yeah, this is my second defeat of the day. I mentioned to you earlier, I was in a GEA final match earlier, kind of promotion, playoff final, let's say. I'm kind of trying to convert it into terms that you guys would know, but they lost as well after extra time. So that was a killer. So that's 2 defeats today. I don't want a third defeat before the night's out. Let's talk about this game. Let's get into it. Bank holiday in Ireland tomorrow, though. 1 plus point. Sorry, Pete. I had to go there. Back to school tomorrow, Pete. Yeah.
Why do you? I feel bad enough. Why do?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to just delay talking about the football. That's why I think we could go back and over all night on this. It would make us laugh at least. Yeah. Right. Let's talk about this. Here's the lineup. 5-3-2. Yeah. No, Eddie was having none of that, was he? Of course, Gordon was injured, or is injured, or we're having a scan tomorrow to find out what's wrong with him. And Miggy came in instead of Murphy. But Chris, we go to you first. Thoughts on the lineup?
Yeah, so obviously it was a big shock. Anthony Gordon being out, obviously big miss. That was a little bit disappointing. Interesting as well, with the photo of Miggy. I think you boys said it on the away days, and I know we've spoken about it in recent weeks. That will Miggy be given a chance, because Jacob Murphy hasn't quite been cutting the mustard, has he? And lo and behold, he did get his chance. So yeah, I mean, other than Gordon being out, I couldn't really have any complaints. Obviously, I thought it was a fantastic opportunity for Harvey Barnes to, try and show Eddie why he should be starting week in, week out. Obviously, he got the start on the left wing. Back four was as expected. Midfield three was as expected. So yeah, I mean, you know what? I think the only slight concern for me, and I don't know whether you boys felt like this, but in recent weeks I've been looking at the bench and going, oh, you know what, there's some really good options on the bench. And for some reason, I looked at our bench today. Maybe it was because I saw Chelsea's bench, and I was just a bit like, it's not great, is it? You know, I know there's some options there. Don't get me wrong, but it's not going to frighten the opposition, is it? Thinking, oh, imagine who Newcastle will bring on to change this game. So, yeah, the bench was a little bit disappointing for me, should I say? But it's where we are. It is what it is. But yeah, other than that, mate, yeah, just the Gordon omission was a bit of a shock, but you got to roll with it, haven't you?
Got to roll with it. Pete, no surprises really. We weren't expecting much in the away days from this match in terms of the result. But your thoughts on the lineup?
Yeah, we almost spoke in hope rather than reality. So when you see the lineup, it's not really anything that we didn't already expect. Obviously, the Gordon news was gutting. Gutted to hear that news. That it was missing. You always want your better players available to play. And when you go into Stamford Bridge, where you've not won for 12 years or however it is, and then you lose one of your better players, you just feel a little bit like, you know, you kind of know what's coming. You try and stay hopeful. You try and stay hopeful that the boys can do something, but there's always a feeling in the back of your mind where you kind of know what's coming. And I think a lot of fans on social media, when they found that news out, were all kind of saying the same thing. It was all a bit like, ugh, you know, what have we got to come here? Is it going to be a hiding? Or, you know, no one was really ever confident. And that was almost my feeling at that point. I'd lost any sort of blind hope or confidence that we could go and actually get something from the game.
Yeah. Of course, on X or Twitter or whatever you want to have yourself, it's in full flow. The Eddie out motion, I guess, is in full force. But let's talk through the game. And here we look at the Chelsea squad as well. This is who took to the pitch for Chelsea, but we saw enough of them today, and their bench and their second team who are sitting at home as well. Right, we're only jealous. We're only jealous. We wish we had the abundance of talent as well, to be honest with you. Right, first half. Early on, Pope had a save from Noni. 3 minutes in, Palmer, ball in the net, but offside. Newcastle let off the hook. Interesting stat come up and linked to what was being said in the last 2 reaction shows we've had as well. 50 corners, 0 goals. How are we not getting something from a corner? It was just the icing on the cake there. Just to kind of rub it in our faces. Right. 14 minutes, Bruno, it was tripped outside the box, though. Not even a free. Strange for me there. Okay, the ref even gave it, so VR aren't going to intervene, but surely that was a free.
Very, very, very obvious free kick. I mean, you can normally you can tell, can't you, from the reaction of the players, and every Newcastle player's like got their hands up. And I think it was the commentator who said that Colwill was like, "Oh, it was outside the box." He was pointing, saying it was outside the box. So if that doesn't indicate to the referee that perhaps it could be a free kick, I don't know what else will. But yeah, you're right, Daz, in that VAR can't intervene if it's not a red card and if it's not a penalty. So they couldn't get involved. But I thought that was a poor decision from the referee, because when I saw it live, I was I was screaming for a penalty at the time. Then I watched the replay and saw, okay, it was outside the box, but you still could clearly see it was a foul.
Was that a free for you, Pete? And were you expecting Tonali, who I don't understand why they don't let him have a free kick now and again? But was it a free for you?
The Bruno Guimaraes one. I've got a picture here of the Bruno Guimaraes situation. So, look, it's outside the box. We know it is. So we're all disappointed like that because it's an obvious foul. How the hell can they not go back and give it a red card for that? It's denying the goal scoring opportunity. Look at where Bruno Guimaraes is, and look at where the ball is at the point in which it stands still. He's in on goal. He's got a clear goal scoring opportunity. There is no other supporting defender that's going to get back and stop him from getting a shot in on goal. He's in. So how they can't then go back and give the VAR decision for an obvious goal scoring opportunity that's been missed by Newcastle United is absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But you know what? It goes back to the man in yellow in the middle. He was an absolute disgrace today as a referee. That is the worst refereeing performance I have seen from a Premier League ref, and there's a few bad ones, but that is the worst that I've seen in a long, long time. He was an absolute joke. Absolutely, just fully for the whole 95, 6, 7 minutes relied on VAR to bail him out. He was not willing to give a decision off his own back. All he wanted to do is just let VAR do the big decisions for him. And this is the problem with referees nowadays, is that referees are not willing to referee the game themselves. That was a blatant free kick. Now you look at that and you look at his line of sight. The only one that's really stopping him is Isak, but he's still got a line to know that Caldwell and Bruno are close together. The Chelsea player that you can see nearest to the referee is not in his line of sight. There's a gap there in between. So he can see that happen. Why he hasn't given a free kick, I've got no idea. No idea whatsoever. And it baffles me. It absolutely
Pete, I've got two questions for you. So the first one, I mean, I'll be honest. I think it would be harsh to give a red for that. Only for the fact that there's two defenders either side. Now, what I want to ask you is, do you think because it's Bruno Guimaraes that has any influence on it? Because if that's Anthony Gordon, you would go, well, I fancy him to beat those two centre-backs either side of him. Or do you think that the fact... Yeah. Because I must admit, even when I watched it back and I saw it and everything, I didn't think, oh, red. But I don't know whether that's because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking it's Bruno. He probably wouldn't have got there. And what was my second question for you? No. Do you know what? I think I've asked you the second question within it. Do you think the two players the two Chelsea defenders being slightly in front of Bruno's had any impact on the red card from the VAR point of view, or the fact that VAR just didn't get involved because of that? And do you think it's the fact that it's Bruno Guimaraes as to why they've not gone, oh, he's got the ball? I mean, we can't see the goalkeeper in that shot, but I assume the goalkeeper wasn't near the ball. I'm assuming.
Yeah. No, he's not. He's not near the board. He's closer to the goal than he is the board. He's closer to his 6-yard box in his goal line than he is the penalty spot. I think it's fair to ask that question, Chris, about Bruno Guimaraes. I don't think VAR are thinking about that, and I don't think the referee's thinking about that. They won't know what we know about Bruno, that he's not the quickest. But even so, it shouldn't be a factor. Like Bruno is ahead of all three of those defenders. Bruno's in front of them. So Bruno has the advantage. Bruno is in a position there in the box in which his next movement is to shoot on goal. That's his next movement. Like, his next movement isn't to cut it back inside, take a couple of touches and do all the rest of it where defenders can get back in. His next involvement in the game is a shot on goal, all you would have expected it to be.
Yeah.
With the position that he's in. There's no question. There's no question. It has to be a serious consideration for a red card. And the fact that they didn't even go back and look at it is crazy. Forget about the free kick. Forget about the penalty. They're two separate incidences. Is it a penalty? No, it's not. We know that. That's obvious. So the second thing is, we know now it's a free kick. Have they denied an obvious goal-scoring opportunity? Yes. And so therefore, the person that fouls that individual, you then need to look at, can the neighbouring defenders get back in on time? I personally don't think so, regardless of Bruno's pace or not, because Bruno is getting that shot off on goal. He's getting that shot off. And so therefore, if Bruno's allowed to get that shot off, that is denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity. Red card. That's my take on it. And I'll be honest, I didn't see it straight away. I had to watch it back, and the people in the studio were talking about it. Is it Roy Keane and Theo Walcott? I think they were having a discussion about it at halftime. That for me, like the fact that they're having that conversation about it tells me that we're on the right lines there of what it should have been.
Yeah.
Oh, we're glad we'll move on from there because 3 minutes later, Chelsea do score. A pass of pure quality by Cole Palmer. To Neto and Char tried to close him down, didn't make it, but he puts a ball across to Nicholas Jackson, and he used there to apply the finish. 1-0 Chelsea. Picking out any faults there, but the pass was unreal though.
Yeah, the pass was sublime. It was a brilliant pass. Let's not deny it. And what made me laugh actually, as soon as I saw the pass, I thought I still prefer Joe Willock's pass from the other season, but I bet you this one will get all of the plaudits. But don't get me wrong, it was a brilliant pass. Can't knock him for that. But it's not just down to that. Obviously Tino's pushing forwards. We've already been warned with this allowed goal. Tino's gone forwards, which is obviously an instruction. He's been told to do that, which sometimes if you risk, you get caught out. It's just the way it is. But Tino's way out of position, so obviously Neto's away. And then the disappointing and frustrating thing for me is, Pedro Neto's in behind, and then Fabian Schär runs over, tries to make a block. It was actually a fairly decent attempt to block actually, and Neto does well to avoid the challenge. But then Nicholas Jackson's on his own in the 6. Well, he's probably about 8 yards out, and that's just criminal. Obviously, you see Dan Burn running back, but again, we had the warning sign. The warning sign was there, and it happened again. In that we were pressing far too high, and I think the idea of pressing high is great, but you need to go and buy some quicker centre backs because you're going to get caught out, which is exactly what has happened. I think playing such a high line against Nicholas Jackson, who's not slow. I'm not saying he's lightning quick, but he's certainly far quicker than Dan Burn. And it was just disappointing that we saw what could potentially happen. And when you've got a player like Cole Palmer, who every time he receives the ball, he always looks like he's got about 2 or 3 minutes to do something with it. Yeah, but that's just technically how good he is. He turns with the ball. He's already had a quick look. He knows where he's going to put it. Great ball. Can't take that away from him. But it's far too easy for Nicholas Jackson. It's far too easy. Pedro Neto does all the hard work, avoids the share challenge, puts the ball in the box, and Nicholas Jackson can't miss. So for me, it was disappointing. And again, the reason it was so disappointing is because we were warned about it a few minutes before, and then it happened again. So yeah, they were my thoughts on the goal. Brilliant pass, but defensively very naive from Newcastle, in my opinion.
Pete, your thoughts there?
Shocking goal. So bad on so many levels. And I'll be honest with you, yes, Cole Palmer's pass is a great pass, but it's made to be a great pass. It wasn't in what it should have been. It was just a hopeful ball forward, in my opinion. Now it's been made into a great pass. And why? It's because of how we defended it. And how badly we defended it has made that pass look brilliant. And now people are going to be lauded with the fact that Palmer's made this great pass. And you know what? Rightly so, because he ultimately is the guy that starts the move and creates the goal. But I'm looking at my 3 defenders there and going, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Tino Livramento caught napping against one of the fastest players in the Premier League. How have you managed to just be caught on your tiptoes and be lost behind you within seconds with someone like that? Like, has he not worked on this with Neto likely to play? If not likely to play, Mudryk still just as rapid, if not as fast. You're going to be coming up against absolutely just lightning quick wingers. How are you not preparing for this? How are you not keeping a yard in front? holding them off, making sure you're in eye line, making sure you can see their movement. Got caught ball watching. And I know you mentioned about Shaw, Chris. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it. I thought it was lazy. I thought it was last ditch. And you know what? It's not the first time I've seen that from Fabian Shaw, even this season. Fabian Shaw, and I put it in our chat. I don't know whether it was before that moment or after it, but Fabian Shaw lost his head in that game.
Yeah, no, he did.
Never got it back.
Yeah,
he never got it back. Fabian Shaw,
yellow card, I wouldn't say.
And you know what? Fabian Shaw has history. Don't get me wrong. Last season, brilliant, fantastic season, brilliant performance. Always the ever present. Can't fault him for that. But there are certain games where his head goes, and when it goes, you don't get it back. You have to manage him in order to see a game through. And he'd lost his head. He'd lost his head in that game. He was all over the place. Whether it was because of the setup that you talked about, Chris, in terms of the high line. The high line does not work for that centre-back pairing. It doesn't work. Having Shaw can play in that centre-back pairing, high line, because he's proven it. We've got Champions League off the back of that. But he cannot play in that high line with Dan Burn next to him, because neither of them are perfectly suited to it. And there are mistakes there. And we're starting to really be on the receiving end of those mistakes. Now, Fabian Shaw can't get back in. Now, what most experienced defenders would do is get to the point where they can get close enough and try and usher him away from goal. Once you get close enough to him, the player's got a decision to make. He either takes you on or he cuts back and waits for support. But you give him the option. Yeah. The fact that you're diving in and going bang and committing yourself, you have to win the ball. At that point, if you're going to commit yourself, you have to win the ball. And I can't remember the game that Fabian Shaw did it this season, but he's done it before, and he's got away with it. But he's done it before and he's got caught as well. I can't think, people in the chat might be able to remember. He does it, and he's put us under massive pressure at that point. And then you've got to look to Dan Burn. And like you said, Chris, Dan Burn got rinsed 2-3 other times before that moment. He was already literally on his knees at that point. So why do you continue to stay as far up on the halfway line if you're continually getting rinsed in and behind by Jackson? For me, it's just common sense. If you're getting rinsed time and time again in that short space of time, then what do? Go sit back in. Sit in. Same as Shaw. As a defender, let the person be in front of you. Make sure that you can see them. Make sure they're in your eye line. Make sure that they are there. And you know what? I think there was even a gap in play where Burn and Shaw went over and had the conversation with Cal.
Yeah, they did.
So
why didn't they do it?
Why wasn't it done? And why wasn't that spoken about? Why wasn't Burn going over to Eddie Howe and going, I'm getting rinsed here. Do we sit a little bit deeper? Do we pull them back a little bit? Because they're getting a lot of joy in and behind. Why was that conversation not happened? Because it happens again and we get punished for it. There's questions got to be asked. We talked about it last week with Brighton on the halfway line when that free kick's taken. Why? No need to be there. Don't get sucked in or pulled away from your centre-back. Hold your position. If you don't hold your position, you're committing massive issues for the rest of your defence. And ultimately, we got punished for it. Now, I'm not saying Dan Burn's solely responsible for that goal, but he plays a part in it. Tino, Shaw, Burn all play a part in that. And they all need to take equal responsibility for that goal ending up in the net. Nothing that Pope could do. Nothing that Pope could do. He's just having to make himself big and try and stop the ball. Such a poor goal to concede. And you know what annoys me the most is that we were up at that point. We were doing all right. We were doing all right. We'd weathered the early storm. We got the disallowed goal, and then we started to kick into the game and actually create some opportunities at the other end of the pitch. And then bang, we get sucker punched.
Exactly, Pete. Because I wrote down some encouragement for Newcastle there, but then bang, the goal was in. So there's no point in saying that now. But yeah, you're right. We were starting to play some ball. Anyway, let's move on. 22 minutes. 5 minutes after that, Neto had a shot straight at Pope, though. And as you said earlier, I wrote down here as well, Chris, Parma getting lots of space. 31 minutes, though, Tino wandered up through the middle of the pitch. Ball to J7, J7 back to Tino to Barnes to Hall, puts it across the box, and Isak is there with the tap in. But great to see him score a goal and then see a goal for Newcastle. It's been that long since we saw a goal. Cue the celebration from Isak. Of course, there was a lot of questions then about was it offside, but he was clearly onside. VAR took a look at it, 1-1. Thoughts on that goal, lads?
Really well worked goal.
Sorry,
mate. Yeah, really well worked goal. I thought Tino, Tino being in the centre of the park really helped because obviously it provides that extra man. Yes, it leaves us a little bit weak in the defence, but for that particular moment, it was great. He literally moved from the right wing back or right back position through, and then I'm sure he ended up at like left centre mid. But we basically overpowered Chelsea in that area of the pitch. And, Tino made a driving one through, little short ball into Joe Linton to Barnes, as you say. Lewis Hall, which I think Pete, you mentioned you tweeted about, overlapping one. That's what we want to see. And in the end, when you actually watch it, it was like a bit of a FIFA goal. It was well worked. It was simple, and it was quick, free flowing football. Very, very simple goal. I mean, Isak's finish was a bit fortunate because you could just see he was just trying to get something on it, when the ball came in the box. I don't think he actually had a clean connection on it, but he did what he needed to do, got the connection he needed, put the ball in the back of the net, and at 1-1, it looked good. We really came into the game. But yeah, I just, it's so frustrating because people always say don't do football's a simple game, it's an easy game. And when you watch us do stuff like that, you think, why can't we do that all the time? It was a nice move. And we were in the ascendancy. So yeah, no, I was really pleased when we equalised, and to be honest, I was quite hopeful at that point. Maybe stupidly, I don't know, but yeah, I thought it was a good team goal.
Yeah, brilliant goal. What we've been crying out for is a little bit of quality in the final third. Lewis Hall makes this goal just because of his technical ability, his ability to cross the ball. How many times have we seen him do it for the under-21s recently? England under-21s get down that byline and whip a ball into the box that's going to create a little bit of problem. And this is part of the problem why we have, when we have inverted wingers that got naturals in down their wing, but whipping a ball across goal, this is what you don't get a lot of. So this is where our fullbacks need to do a lot more of it. And I tweeted out, as you said, Chris, and I said, we need Lewis Hall at every opportunity to be on the overlap. The problem is, I don't recall another opportunity in the game where Lewis Hall gets in a position and was given the ball to do it again. There's your problem, is that we don't create enough opportunities for our players that are technically good in those positions to do exactly that. He made some runs in the second half, never got the ball. What's the point? We're literally hanging ourselves with someone that's capable of creating a moment, and we're not giving him the opportunity to do that. It doesn't make sense for me. But it was a great goal, really, really well worked goal. And again, we were up. We were up at that point. We were playing the better football, and this is why it's so frustrating, because we create opportunities for ourselves, but at this moment we actually took it, and that was the positive thing for me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pete. The Hall's ball across minute. I think Tino did well though to cut inside and then the 1-2 just to kind of start the move up. But look at it, we desperately needed a goal from somewhere. We haven't seen one for a while. But Newcastle under pressure then after that, as Chelsea tried to regain the lead. Good save from Pope again, from Neto, and as you alluded to earlier, Chris, the ref was letting things go. Barnes should have had a free in 42 minutes, but then maybe Chelsea should have had one then on Byrne on Noni, but right before half time. But into the second half then, and here we go, 46 minutes. Here's half time, 1-1. But 46 minutes, Isak kind of fumbles the ball, trying to get it to Bruno, Tino. It just didn't. It just broke down, and we lose the ball. Cole Palmer picks it up, punishes us as he slots the ball past Pope's right, 2-1 Chelsea. Pete, let's go to you. Your thoughts on that goal first.
Oh, this team winds me up because it just continually shoots itself in the foot, time and time again. The second half starts, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? We're in this game. We've got an opportunity to actually get the goal that's going to put us ahead. We're still in this game, and then we go do something like that. It's absolutely shocking from Alexander Isak. Couldn't hold the ball up all day. Really, really poor with the ball up at his feet, giving it away constantly, and he just gifts it away. But I've got a picture here, and this is, I think it's the right one. This one here. This is where Isak gives the ball away, and then it gets played through to Palmer. Yeah, massive question marks at this.
What are Bruno and Tino doing there, Pete? What are they doing?
Well, assume he has it, doesn't he? And they're making a break for the pass.
It's still, I don't know. It's incredibly close together, though. Incredibly close. I mean, I heard the commentator. Sorry to interrupt you. I heard the commentator saying about Isak and going, "Oh, you know, he's giving the ball away, and that's why Newcastle conceded." But for me, you're absolutely right, Pete. Like Isak couldn't chop a bag of cement today, but you've got it. I mean, look at where he's picked the ball up. Look where the ball is. And then, you know, if you said to anybody and you showed them this freeze frame and they went, "Oh, someone's going to score from this," you'd go, "What?" Like, look how far up the pitch it is. There's so many other errors. And, you know, taking into account Bruno, then you've got, you know, Bruno and Livramento both sitting on each other. Yes, I can see that they were transitioning, they were looking to go. But, like, at least, you know, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You know, there is a possibility that, you know, could lose the ball. Because let's not forget, Isak at that point had 3 players around him. So, you know, yes, he should have done better with the take of the ball completely. But, you know, don't take risks like that so high up the pitch. And again, you know, are the other players not looking and going, like, well, Tino's gone, Bruno's up, you know, or maybe I should drop in, or maybe I should, you know, cover or whatever. Palmer had all big, massive, you can't even see it in the image. Big, massive space to run into. Nobody went anywhere near him. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
But this is part of the issue, Chris. This is exactly what I was going to say. Is that I don't put necessarily any blame on Bruno here. Bruno's exactly where he needs to be, in the middle of the park. He's in the middle of the park. He's got a man marking him. I think it's Lavia. That's fair enough. He's one-on-one with him. My question is, what the hell is Tino doing sitting in that position? Yeah. Tino drifts. Tino doesn't have the ball at his feet at any point in this passage. No. Why does he then just find the need to drift inside and end up in that position there? Why? It makes no sense, because that's part of the problem of what happens next. Because what happens next, and you're talking about, there's about a 15, 20-yard gap between them, the midfield, and what is now the back 3. So Shaw is the next person on with Palmer. But the problem is, and what we see next is, and I think it's Malagusto or Reece James, whichever one it is, one of the guys on the far left for Chelsea.
It'll probably be
on the other side of Isak. That guy then makes a dart for it, and Shaw is in a difficult position because Shaw is trying to hold his position as a centre back, but at the same time has to then eventually go towards him. But he's also got another player over the far side that he could quite easily give the ball to, which is where Tino Livramento should be. So there's a massive gap there that's not then filled because Tino's gone wandering, and it's created the opening. Now, what happens after that it is questionable. Nick Pope getting beat at his near post.
Oh, mate,
it's not good. It's a really bad level of goalkeeping to let that ball go into the near post. It wasn't the greatest of strikes. It wasn't struck with amazing venom that was unstoppable. It wasn't anything of the such. I don't know what happens there, but he doesn't get enough on it. But in that moment, when that ball is there, you've got to look at that and you've got to think, what is Isak doing? Just flicking a foot at it, hoping that it gets to a Newcastle United player. Where's the conviction? Where's the strength to hold off your man and hold on to the ball? There's that determination to not give the ball away, even get your body in front of the ball and win a free kick. Because that's what the best strikers do.
Yeah.
The best hold-up strikers make it difficult for you. They're either going to hold the ball and be strong and come out with the ball, or they're going to make you make a decision. He does neither. And this is not just in this moment. It's for the vast majority of this game. He doesn't hold the ball up well at all. And it's a real problem when you're away from home and we want the players to be as far up the pitch as possible. You need your striker to hold on to the ball. And it was a nothing situation. And he gifts the ball in. And yeah, he tries to work back and get the ball, but it's all too late by that point. And it's such a poor goal to concede when you're in a position where you've just got yourself back in the game. You're playing well in terms of going toe-to-toe with Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, which is something we don't normally do. And then you have a moment like that and you're just gifting them back the game within a minute or two of the second half starting. At that point, I'm thinking, are we ever going to get anything from this game? Because we've just gifted them 2 goals that have just allowed them to be 2-1 up at this point. And it's just, it winds me up. It winds me up like the Premier League's hard enough. But when you're gifting players and teams goals, you're making it impossible for yourself.
Chris, anything else you want to say on that one?
Yeah, to be fair, I jumped in a bit on Pete's piece there, but the last thing I was going to touch on was Nick Pope. Like you can't get beat. The commentator said, "Oh, what a crisp strike from Palmer." It wasn't. Nick Pope will watch that back and he'll realise he should have saved that. It's a weak hand. I think Nick Pope just expects him to put it across the goal, but he obviously puts it near post. You can argue that Cole Palmer shouldn't have the time and the space and the ability to be able to pick his spot, but you'd still expect a Premier League keeper to be doing better than that. But it only reiterates what we've been saying on this channel for a long time, in that unfortunately at times Nick Pope isn't the guy. He's just not the guy. He's a solid Premier League goalkeeper, really, really good shot stopper. Not taking that away from him, but is he top 8 goalkeeper? If we sold Nick Pope tomorrow, would any of the other top 7 clubs come in for them? The answer is no, they wouldn't. And that kind of says everything that you need to know. But again, we can't dwell on that too much, I suppose, because there's loads of errors that lead up to that. And as I say, Cole Palmer shouldn't have the time and space to be able to pick his spot. And you can't leave arguably one of the inform, if not the informed player in the Premier League, that much time and space to get a shot off with zero pressure on him. You just can't do it. So really, it's our own fault that happened.
It is all very frustrating. Words Bruno uses well, frustrating. Anyway, let's go move on. 49 minutes, Neto out jumps Tino, hits the post with a header. Newcastle unable to get a foothold in the second half. 63 minutes, Barnes makes room on at least 2 occasions, but he fails to pull the trigger, looking for a clean route at the target, but bodies get in the way. It never happens. 65 minutes, Newcastle got a free kick in a good position, and Shar takes it and wastes it. 67 minutes, here comes the subs. Barnes, Miggy, and Tonali off, Willock, Murphy, and Longstaff on. And then we go to Isak had a header, headed it down, lacked any real power after a Willock cross. Then there's the other main talking point, and it is this one. Isak had a great run, took it around the keeper. Why did he not shoot? But why did he not pass? Is the big question. And this kind of summed up everything, I think. Lads, I'll stop there because I think there'll be a bit of talk on this one. Pete, we'll go to you.
I'm still pissed off now. I expect better from Alexander Isak. I think it's selfish. I think he's thinking about himself, putting the ball in the net, and not about the team. You're telling me that Joe Linton, with his arms out there, is not screaming at Isak to give him the ball. You can't tell me that Joe Linton is not making it abundantly aware that he wants that ball for a tap-in, which is what it is. It's a tap-in. And the fact that he then just doesn't bother doing it because he wants to take on, I think that's number 27, who then eventually gets something on it and gets rid of the ball. It's a joke. Like it's really, really poor. It's really, really poor from him. You know, the one-on-one against Brighton, okay, fine. Okay, that can happen, but that is like, it's unforgivable. That. And he, the fact that the journalists are talking about how angry Eddie Howe is at the Isak, that opportunity tells its own story. Eddie Howe's normally quite reserved and very much protective of players, but the fact that he's openly pissed off at that tells you everything you need to know. It's an absolute disgrace, and it's effectively cost us a point. It's cost us a point because that's a goal right there. Great play, great movement in, onside, takes around the goalkeeper, does all the good stuff, but you've got to know when to give the ball. You've got to know when to play it to another player, get the goal, get the ball, go back and try and get the winner, and then be the hero then, scoring the winning goal. You don't take it on your own. You know, I hate it. I hate it. I had players that I played with that did exactly the same. So when it happened, it resonated with a lot of things that I'd seen playing football myself. And it winds me up. Just play the ball. Play for your team, not for yourself. And people are going to link it to the contract talk and everything that's been going on with him. I don't believe it's linked to that. But you got to do better there. You got to do better. It's not good enough.
Chris, you're playing in the charity match. It's Newcastle Fans TV, and you're in that position. Are you squaring the ball across to one of us, either me and Pete? Or are you going solo?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Because I'm sorry,
not a chance. He's going solo. I know while you're
mate. I do enjoy scoring, but I must admit, like, there's no way in a team game you don't square the ball to your teammates. You can't even excuse, like Pete said, you can't even use the excuse, oh, he didn't see him, because he definitely seen him. Because Joe Linton, and he will have heard him, as Pete said. You know, Joe Linton will have been screaming for it, and I think you saw Joe's reaction. You know, when he's lost the ball, Joe's on his knees on the floor, as if to say, "How didn't you play that ball? Why didn't you play the ball?" Just to touch on what Pete said, you know, about the contract talk. That was the feeling I got. I'll be honest, when I saw it, I thought, are you now playing for yourself? Are you now playing for your future rather than the team? I'll be honest, that's the first thing that came through my head.
It's a natural thought, Chris. It's your natural thought. I thought the same.
Yeah. I hope that's not the case. It's just incredibly selfish. The whole thing was just selfish, and I haven't heard what Eddie said about it or heard what the journalists have said. I haven't read or watched anything after the match. But if Eddie Howe's fuming about it, and he, like you say, he's normally very reserved. I mean, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? Because it was a great opportunity to get back in the game, and who knows what would have happened? Maybe we'd have conceded another one. Maybe we'd have gone on to win it. Who knows? But we'll never know, and that's the disappointing thing. Because if we'd have equalised at that point, it would have lifted the players. It would have lifted the away fans. But no, it was a really, really, really poor decision, and he, you know, yeah.
All right, sounds like Isak is putting some money behind the bar in the Strawberry for the next home game. But let's move on. 81 minutes.
You need to put some balls in the back of the net. That's what he needs to do. And I'm not talking manscaping. I'm talking about footballs in the back of the net.
Well, it's a nice link in, Pete. It's a nice link in.
Yeah, because honestly, I can't tell you, Daz, and you haven't had your jump in as well. I can't tell you how annoyed I am with that. It is absolutely wound me up. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The fact that he needs to, I need to hear that he's apologized to his players, the rest of the players. I need to hear that at some point between now and Wednesday. He needs to apologize to Joe Linton and the players for that, because he's cost Newcastle United a point.
Well, let him go out and do something about it on Wednesday now and get us through in the cup as well. Kenda would have liked that link in there as well to Manscaped. He also likes that. But anyone that's a Pope save from Mudryk. On come the next batch of subs. Sula and on for J7 and Lloyd Kelly on for Hall. Hall, who had an excellent game in my opinion. But 89 minutes, Byrne pulls back and Kunku, he pulled him back in the box. Ref points to the spot. Soft penalty. I was thinking myself, but Kunku was looking for it. No penalty because it went to VAR. Correct decision at VAR. 92 minutes, Willock put the ball across the box. Reece James, diving header, puts it up for a corner. Popey comes up for that corner, but nothing happening. Final result. 2-1 Chelsea. Chelsea win at home. A lot of frustration in walking through it back again, guys. But where do we go next?
Just put that picture up again, that full-time picture. I don't know whether you guys saw this. I thought they looked like the Mario brothers, them two, next to each other. You know, with the tash and the beard.
Musketeers look about them, yeah.
Who's Mario? Who's Luigi?
I know, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Could make more Mario jokes, but we'll carry on. I'm going to go straight to the table, lads, because and look at where this leaves us, because it is not pretty. It's not pretty. No. The table. We are down in 12th spot. 12th spot. Alongside the clubs we were laughing at the early part of the season, West Ham, only a point ahead of us. Man United, a point behind us. Man United only a point behind us. And Spurs are ahead of us by a point as well. And Forest flying it. But lads, it is not pretty reading. Not where we want to be in this stage of the season, the takeover, the project. Where are we going?
Look at the form, Daz. Look at the form. What's that?
Yeah.
Lost, drawn, lost. It's not good, mate. It's really, really not good. And by the way, we're only just sneaking into our we're only still barely halfway into our
joint 10th.
Our tough fixture period. So it's only going to get worse.
Yeah.
How the hell are Leicester and Everton only 3 points behind us?
Crazy.
Jesus Christ, man. Both of those teams are shite. I mean, Man United, Everton, they're always going to get points and get back up. They're always going to get points at some point. Like, that's nothing that I did not expect to happen. You know, West Ham win today. Man United will probably win next week and get the points. But we can't moan. We cannot moan. We cannot moan. Fulham away. Doesn't matter how well they're playing. Fulham away. You always expect to at least take something from them, even if it's a point. Everton away looks an absolute disgraceful result. Now, they got lucky, and I watched that game. They got so lucky against Fulham at the weekend on yesterday. Yeah. They are shocking. They are shocking, and their own fans know it. How we didn't win there, I've got no idea. That Brighton game, they know how lucky they were getting out of there with 3 points. We can't argue. We get those points. We win those games, even if we win Everton and we win Brighton. This result today feels different. It feels different having already got those points on the board. Opposition looks different. We feel different. We move on. But the point is what we said last week. Because we've lost these games or we haven't won these games, we're in a position now where games like today and games like next week against Arsenal, forget the cup for now, become so much more important because these are games where there is no more consideration of free hit. There were never a free hit for us three anyway. But they're not considered a free hit anymore. You have to take points from those games. We've put ourselves in a position that games where we're expected to win, we haven't. So now we have to go and grab points elsewhere. And this is it. This is the situation that we're in.
Boys, let's get on to the questions in from the chat and see what the audience are saying.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start harsh. So the Crimson Lip says, people are going to be angry, but I'm Eddie out now. His in-game management alone is enough for me to say it. I'm sick of it. John Mitchinson says, in my opinion, Share and Burn too slow for the Premier League. Need two central defenders with pace and a good set-piece coach. Big difference in class with both Arsenal and Liverpool. Both score from set pieces. Eddie gone, in my opinion. This is a great question. This one came in early from Nathan Page. I really, really like this question. Question: would you trust Eddie with 100 mil in January? Daz, I'll start with you.
Eddie on his own? No, I would not trust Eddie on his own. Paul Mitchell with Eddie, yes, I would trust it because, and we have to spend some money in January. But I don't think we'll spend 100 million in January. No way. But the big question is: do by the time we get to January, will Piff trust Eddie with the cash? But sure, it's going to be it's not going to be Eddie and Eddie's way come January anyway. That won't happen because he mightn't be there come the summer. So it can't be. That'll be just ridiculous.
Pete, what are your thoughts?
It's not a case of trusting Eddie Howe with the money because, as far as we're aware, Paul Mitchell is going to be presenting the players to him. So these are going to be players that Paul Mitchell is finding, not necessarily Eddie Howe. That fills me with a bit more confidence. We've said it on since the transfer window closed. Paul Mitchell will look in the European market in terms of buying our next set of players. I'd be shocked if we go back to England to be signing any players. And Paul Mitchell is the best person in this position to go into Europe and find the players that are right for Newcastle United. So he'll be presenting the players to Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe's got to choose them. And Eddie Howe will be choosing based on what Paul Mitchell wants. So do I trust both of them to make that decision? Similar to Daz? Yeah, I do. We need to sign players. And we need to sign players quickly. I was adamant of two players. This is the thing. We keep talking about players coming in. Got 70 million clearly that we've got ready to spend because we're going to put that down on Mark Gay. So that's what is available to us. For me, we're going and getting 2 or 3 players, and they don't even have to be permanent signings. We're completely forgetting the fact we can't loan a player for 6 months. We're in a desperate position right now. We need to get European football, and European football is going to be really, really hard to get this season because there are so many teams that are playing well, and we're going to have to continuously play well. So forget what we do between now and January. To do what we need to do between January and May, we need the best team possible. So Eddie Howe is going to have to suck it up and get this loan agenda out the way. He's not a big fan of it. Although he's not against it, he's not a big fan of it. There are players out there that we could loan for 6 months that will come in and instantly be better than what we've got. Yeah. And I think not only the permanent players to come in, I think at least minimum 2 permanent players need to come in January. But I honestly believe a couple of loan players, at least one, needs to come through the door as well. And when you get a loan player, particularly from a top European team, you're likely to get a loan player, okay, that's of an immediate quality to come in and make a difference at this team. And so that would be a massive plus for us. Who those players are, I have no idea. That's up for discussion, and we'll cover it on the Full Loaded Transfer shows from December onwards. But right winger, striker are the 2 priorities. And I'll be honest with you, I think we still need a centre-back. I do. We still need a centre-back because that pairing there is not a pairing that should be starting games for Newcastle United. I haven't got an issue with having Shea staying at the club for another year, but as a squad player, next season has to be a squad player. Dan Burn has to be a squad player. He had an interview saying he still feels he's good enough to be in this Newcastle United team as a starter. That tells you everything you need to know about where we're going right now. Because Dan Burn should not be coming out in interviews and saying, I still believe that I'm good enough to start games at Newcastle United, because no, he is not. He's not at the level of Sven Botman. He is not at the level that we need to get back to playing European football. He's not. Just not. And people might not like that, but that's the reality for me.
On that subject.
Happens?
Oh, go on, Pete. Yeah,
no, just play out a scenario. What happens? Paul Mitchell comes with 3 right wing options. He comes with 3 striking options to Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe goes, no.
Is that when Paul Mitchell goes, yes, you're getting them?
Oh yeah,
makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Well, that'll be the beginning of the end. And if Eddie Howe is turning players away, good players that are ready to come in and play for Newcastle United, that's the beginning of the end. Like he'll be gone. At that point, you'll be lucky if he makes the end of the season, because if we don't get players in of significant quality to come in and improve, not just this squad, I mean, talking first team ready players. If we don't get those players in, we are not getting European football. We're not. Yeah. And this is a season where I genuinely think 8th place could get European football. And I'm saying if we don't get those players in and we don't improve our performances now, we're not getting it. We're not.
We're talking about trying to scrape 8th place now. How far have we fallen?
but this is my opinion. This is how I feel. That people are still talking about. I talked to a couple of people yesterday, and they were like, they were buzzing at the fact that Villa dropped points. Like, not on our chat. I'm talking about other people that I know, and I'm like,
I said that as well.
Really? That's the point that I'm making. But I asked you anyway in response to that. Like, I'm not looking at Villa's point. I'm not looking at Villa's results. Villa are way above what we're doing, and they're doing it with Champions League football. I'm not looking at Aston Villa. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at Aston Villa. I'm not looking at Chelsea. They'll be fighting in the upper echelons for me. We're looking at the 6th best, 7th, and hopefully 8th. And I think we've got a chance if those in those positions. That's the reality, Daz. Because Chelsea are back. Spurs are they lost today, but Spurs will pick up enough points to be in that conversation. Right? Brighton will be neither here nor there. They'll be in and around that position. They'll either make it or they don't. They'll be one of those teams that'll be in that conversation. You got Forest. Can they continue what they're doing at the moment? They're looking really good. Fulham as well, looking really good, playing some good stuff. You know,
Man U will improve.
West Ham are only a point behind us. Man U are only a point behind us. They're going to be in that conversation. You're looking at that, and that's not just. And I'm not talking. We're in that position. That's a scrap for top 10, not just European football. If you add all those teams in there, it's competitive. So
that's why we need those players.
You've got to be able to win, and you've got to be able to win consistently, and you've got to be able to win at places that you don't normally win or are expected to win. And this is the key. Can we go and do that? We'll beat teams at St. James's Park this season, no doubt about it. But can we go to places and get points and 3 points where you don't necessarily expect it to happen? I'm not quite sure. They haven't told me enough to suggest to me that they're going to do that yet. That's my question.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, mate. It's a good point. I think I was going to go to a different question, but I'm going to go to this one just while we're on it, because you mentioned his name before, Pete, and John asked you, and John, I'm not having a go at you here, by the way, mate, but John says, is Shea unsettled because his contract runs out in June? Now, for me, John, I hear this a lot, in terms of, and not just from our fans, by the way, from all fans. They go, "Oh, is he unsettled? Is he after that new contract?" And when Gordon signed his new contract, it was like, "Oh, he was unsure about his future, but he'd be great now because he signed his new contract." Do you think that's an excuse, boys, for Fabian Schär in terms of his indifferent form in recent weeks? Do you think that will be on the back of his mind? Do you think that a year contract extension will improve his form? Pete, what do you think?
I don't think he's unsettled about. Look, we know what happens with contracts. Like, we didn't know until the other week that Dan Burn had signed an extension. Who's to say that Fabian Schär's not already signed another year extension, and we just don't know about it yet? So I don't believe that. The reality is that Fabian Schär, he's a consistent player for Newcastle United that's always available, and we value that massively. We can't, in a team that gets injured a lot, players get injured a lot, we can't afford to let that go. But we also have to recognise that we need to move forward. And Fabian Schär is, 32, 33?
Yeah, 32,
like,
I think, yeah.
We're in a position now where we can't be reliable. We had the same conversation last year with Kieran Trippier. We can't be relying on Fabian Schär to go to the well again next season and do another full season playing every week. We have to transition this squad. We have to make sure we're bringing new players in. And so I don't think he's unsettled. I just think he had a game today against a team that had his number, and he knew it. And he knew it quite early on. That he knew that the lack of pace was killing him. And so when that happens, some players will become more cute in the way in which they play. They'll play a little bit deeper. They'll be a little bit more touchy-feely, so they'll be holding the shirt and play a little bit rougher. He's very much last ditch. Bang. He'll go and hammer someone. He'll go and make those last-ditch lunges like he did, and he'll lose his head. And luckily, he managed to get it back in the second half. But that's what I put it down to. He's done it before. He'll do it again. He loses his head. At that point, we just need to make sure that we're not in a position where where the game's out of sight. And it wasn't today, but we're lucky that it wasn't.
I'm going to change the question slightly. Yeah, I'm just going to change the question slightly and say, is Schär unsettled because all summer long we tried to sign a player for his position? Another way of looking at it. But he's getting older as well, as Pete has highlighted. So no, that I don't put it down to a contract situation, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Okay, boys. Well, we were going. I was going to go to this comment from Tangy Vivid, and it's quite a scary comment actually, but it really rings home what's happening at the moment. So he says, based on the past 5 games, the form guide says we are 4th bottom. Here's how it reads: Southampton 1 point, Wolves 2 points, Ipswich 2 points, Newcastle 2 points, based on the last 5 games. So yeah, that's pretty damning reading, if we're being honest. And like I say, we've still got some really tough games to come as well, which makes it all the worse. Right. This one from Cristobal sounds a bit maybe a bit full on, but it's a valid question. Cristobal says, "Are we heading into a relegation battle, lads? Seriously, only 3 teams have fewer goals than us." So obviously we've talked about Tangy Vivid's message. We've talked about the fact that only 3 teams have fewer goals than us. It's certainly a conversation worth having. I'm sure we'll all agree that we don't expect to be in a relegation battle, but at the same time, we can't take for granted the fact that, we're Newcastle, we've got these rich owners. We won't be pulled into a relegation battle. But when you're looking at the table, you're looking at the form guide, I think it's a valid question. So Daz, what would you say in return to Cristobal's question?
No way are we in a relegation battle. Not a hope. And a relegation battle for me is for where we're in is not finishing in the top 10. There's a zero excuse for that. Eddie out if that was to happen. He'd be out before that, I think, as well. But no, we're not in anywhere. We won't be anywhere near a relegation battle. There are a lot more teams worse than us, even though the form suggests, but form is temporary. We'll get back to winning some games and scoring some goals in time.
Yeah, Pete, are you agreeing with Daz in that we're not in the relegation battle at the moment, and I agree entirely with Daz. I don't think it's that drastic at the moment, but is there a potential for it if things don't improve? And what I suppose I can use a bit of Daz's answer there. Where do you think the trigger point could be? Where would you really start worrying, and where do you think maybe PIF would start worrying as well? If we trickled down the league, at what point would you go, right, enough's enough now? Where do you think your limit is, if you're being honest?
Well, there's a few things to this. I've just been sent something by another Newcastle fan. So thanks to Stuart for sending it, he put it in one of the chats that I'm in. In the last 38 games, Newcastle United have only got 5 more points than Everton.
Pack up, lads. Go.
And we've conceded 60 goals. That's what he's put out. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. That I haven't seen it, but he's put that in there. That tells you everything you need to know if that is true. So that's one thing there. Are we in a relegation battle? Absolutely not. And I tell you why. It's not just about the level of player. And this is what I'm frustrated about. You know, I mentioned on socials, I said it was another drab performance. And the reason why it was a drab performance is because we're not doing what the rest of our play intends for us to do. We're not scoring goals. Like, looking at the stats here for this game in isolation, we created 3 big chances in this game today. Chelsea created one big chance, and they scored 2 goals. The other one, it was created by us. We had 11 shots to their 17. We had 3 on target. They had 7. Our expected goals was 1.92. Theirs was 1.64. So we were expected to score more goals than them today. So my issue is, and this is why I don't think we're being a relegation battle, far from it, is that we're doing things well to a point, but we're not doing the things that we normally do. We scored 85 goals last season, boys. We're in the top 3 or 4 in the whole of the Premier League. And now it looks like we can't hit a barn door. We scored today, a tap-in, great bit of play, but we had opportunities to score 2 or 3 other goals that would have won us the game, and we're not taking the chances. That's my concern. Now, can we change that around? Absolutely. And that puts us well away from the relegation battle. But we need to start taking our chances. We can't just keep going, better luck next game. Can't keep doing it. These games are coming thick and fast. Cannot afford to. That's twice now. 2 gilt-edge opportunities squandered by Isak. One for the one against Brighton, and one for the one that he should have played across to Joe Linton to put in the net. There were others. There was one that we didn't talk about in the first half, where Miggy gets the ball on the penalty spot and goes to shift it and shoot on his left foot that blazes over the bar. When Barnes is there, free, 10 yards worth all around him, free, and he's going, give me the ball. He's got time to take a touch and put it in the net from 8 yards out at an angle. At Harvey Barnes' angle, where he loves to score. There's moments like that. There's moments where in the first few minutes before their goal gets disallowed in the beginning of the game, where I can't remember who, it might have been Bruno, someone sets Isak free, and he comes in at the angle on the right-hand side, in at an angle. He ends up squaring it, and I think he squares it, and Barnes gets his shot blocked. And it's unlucky because he's in like penalty spot. I don't know if you guys remember. He gets squared back, and Barnes is on the penalty spot, and he shoots, and I think it might be Fofana that blocks it. And it's a great block, by the way. But Isak, he's at an angle that if he just drives towards goal, gets a free shot. He's not selfish enough. He needs to be selfish in that situation, looking for goal in that situation. And he wasn't. He squared it, we got a shot, unlucky. But you look at that, and we're creating opportunities, but we're not taking them.
Mm.
That can't last forever, lads. It can't. For as much as we're all frustrated now, cannot last forever. We will start putting chances away. We will start scoring goals, and when we do, we'll go up the table. We will. It will happen.
It is very bunched on the table, so it's deceiving as well at this point. But.
And it's, I suppose, a lot of it as well, boys. As we know in football, it's about momentum, isn't it? You know, when you have that game where you know the team pops or a certain player pops, and then you build on that momentum, and then you can, you know, if you go on a winning streak of 3 or 4 games, all of a sudden the league looks a lot different, doesn't it? It feels like we're a million miles from there. It feels like we're nowhere near that at this present moment. But you've got to keep the faith, haven't you? You've got to keep the faith. On the subject of keeping the faith, Tom Dixon asks, where do you think our next win will come from? Daz, I don't know. Did you have those fixtures in the thing? Or
I have the overall fixtures. But it might be hard to read. I think isn't it? It's obviously Arsenal next.
Oh, okay.
Then it is not Forest, Nottingham Forest even. Sorry, Wolfie. And West Ham and Palace. So I'm thinking it's Forest is our next points in the league.
Pete, I'm gonna say I think our next point, was it next points or next 3 points?
Next 3 next.
Yeah.
Our next points have to be Arsenal. We've got to pick something up there. We're at St James's Park. We've already lost one to Brighton that we could never have lost due to poor finishing. We have to make it difficult for them. We've got the fact that we beat them last season, so we know we can do it. But we cannot afford to just think, oh, it's Arsenal. We're not going to win. We've got to go and we've got to make it difficult for them in our own patch. They're already worried about coming up to us in the worry of dropping points. We need to feed off that as a group of players and as a fan base, get right behind them and make sure that we make it as difficult as possible. Lunchtime kickoff on Saturday, let's take something from them. Let's put them well out the title race. Let's make it difficult for them. Let's put points on the board for us. That's going to give us confidence going into that Forest game. Because I tell you what, if we lose comfortably against Arsenal and we go to Forest next before an international break, Forest away is going to be a lot different to what we've seen Forest away, even in the Carabao Cup where we went and previous seasons. It's a different place because they are playing well at the moment. They are playing very well, and it's going to be different to the Carabao Cup because a lot of their top players, like the likes of Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White, they weren't playing. They're all going to be playing. They're all going to be bang up in that game. It's not a guarantee win at all.
Wood's on fire.
Yeah. And then you got West Ham. So, you know, for me, it's a tough 3 set of fixtures. Put aside, we have to take points. For me, there's got to be minimum couple wins in there. If we want to be up fighting at the top end of the table, there has to be a couple of wins in there. There has to be.
Yeah, I'll be honest. When I looked at those fixtures, my first thought was, we'll beat West Ham. That was my first thought. I thought we'll beat West Ham, but I'm not looking forward to Arsenal coming to St James's. Even though you're right, Pete, in that, you know, if we perform, if the crowd get behind the players, hopefully we'll have Anthony Gordon back. If Isak's fine, and there's a potential to kick the season off next season. There's a potential for the season to kick off next week, you know, and really get back on track. There is. Because we made a strong start to the season, not in terms of performances, but in terms of results. And then we've had our wobble, and you would hope everyone would say it's unlikely that we're going to get anything from the Arsenal game, but who knows? You know, it could be one of those moments where we beat Arsenal and we go, bloody hell, you know, that makes up for the Brighton game, makes up for the Everton game, whatever, like we've done in the past. But if we lose to Arsenal and then go on that international break, and then if we lose to Arsenal and then we go away to Forest, and then we've got the international break, like things are going to be seem pretty grim. I've got to be honest, because I think going to City grounds is going to be difficult, Pete, like you said.
Yeah, look, just I suppose we just have to look forward to November and what it might bring, because we've had a pretty shit October. Maybe we can finish it off in style by going through in the cup. But let's see. Wednesday. Next question, Chris.
Next question, mate. Okay. Just answer this with a yes, no, boys. So Niall Powell asks, if Eddie loses all games up until Forest, do you think he'll still be in with a job? So I'm assuming that he means if we lose to Arsenal and if we lose to Forest, will he still be in the job? Maybe Niall's thinking about that international break. So just a yes, no on this one, boys.
Eddie will still be in the job.
Yeah. He will.
Yeah. I think he will as well. But it will be a grim international break if we lose the next two, Niall. But good question. Let's see. Where should we go to now? Villa, 1982 James UTFV, says, question, have you gone backwards this season?
Yes, most definitely. Because last season it was all about the injuries, Tonali ban, blah, 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 too many games. So a whole list of excuses. There's no excuses this season. So it is as it is. We're going backwards. And that's the problem. And that's where, if we don't, from the last question, if we lose the next couple of games and we get closer to Christmas and we're still not going anywhere, big, massive question marks about what we're going to do to change this.
A week's worth of training, hardly any injuries in comparison to previous season. There's no excuse. We're not doing it on match day. This is not about lack of training. This is not about players being tired. They've got 7 days between matches. Not this week, of course, but in most weeks. No excuse. No excuse. This is down to the players and the management team setting up this team correctly, incorrectly, however you want to see it. But this is about that and the performances not matching up. Something's not right.
And a lot of us talked about as well, even Eddie admitted about the harmony within the squad and kind of the squad being on a bit of a downer after the summer and what happened over the summer.
Excuses
as well, but that's too easy of an excuse. Yeah.
I'm not buying that, Dad. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying this excuse that, Anthony Gordon was upset because he never played any football for England. I would understand why he was upset not playing for England, but this is not an excuse for him starting and having a poor start to the season. If anything, with Anthony Gordon's mentality, he would have been, right, I'm gonna show them. I'm going to show them why I should be starting and putting in some top level performances. Isak coming back in should have been fit and firing, ready to go. They didn't even play at the Euros. He should have been ready to go. Joe Linton wasn't at Copa America. Should have been ready to go. Brazil went out. They didn't make the final, I don't think. Why is Bruno coming back the way he is? I'm not having these excuses. You know how much we all love Eddie Howe. I love him to bits. But at some point, you've got to go, nah, I'm not having this. Of course, he's going to use those excuses for the media, but I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. It's rubbish.
They're professional footballers earning mega bucks. Get on with it. Get a real job if you can't go day to day like everyone listening to the chat and trying to combine everything else. So wise up and just get on with it.
Yeah. Well, your boys' responses to that leads me nicely into the next one from Tiger Studios, and he says, players are done playing for this manager, and also you see Gordon's face while sitting there that he's regretting. I'm assuming he says he's regretting the contract, I would assume. But do you think, boys, that these players, maybe if they're not done playing for Eddie Howe, that they're starting to maybe not believe? Because I'll be deadly honest, and the reason I asked that question, as well as Tiger asking it, and the way I'm framing it, the way I am, is like, it does seem like something's not right, and it does seem that all is not well. Eddie's alluded to it in some of his comments, but as Pete's just listed, then a list of all these players, there's no reason. We should have, and to add to the list to Pete as well, Tino Livramento, very little football in the summer. Sandro Tonali, he's been out for 10 months. Should be fresh as a daisy. Harvey Barnes had all summer to get himself ready. You could go on. Do you think there's any element that the players are maybe not as engaged with Eddie Howe and his tactics, and with his coaching? And I suppose what I'll do as well, boys, to tag onto this, just to add in a couple of other questions which lead into this question really. John Askew says at the same time, does anyone from Loaded Mad think 4-3-3 is the way forward? Are the players fed up with the formation? Are they not believing in the direction going forward, boys? I saw you on away days talking about a 5-3-2, going to Stamford Bridge with a 5-3-2. Are the players just thinking, I don't believe in this anymore. I don't trust the tactics. Oh, when the subs ball comes up, oh yeah, like for like. Sandro's coming off. We'll bring Hall off and we'll bring Kelly on. When we're trying to nick a goal, and when it's just a bit like, is that really going to change things? Like, what are your thoughts, boys? Anyway, what are your thoughts? Daz, I'll start with you.
For the first question, I don't think Gordon is regretting it, but I think as the season goes on, players will be thinking about, where am I going? Like, let's call them our elite players, like Bruno, Isak. Gordon's already signed the contract, let's say, but there's going to be question marks of, I want to be playing Champions League football. I'm not getting into the Champions League next season. And do I think that Newcastle are going to be in the Champions League the season after that? They'll be thinking for themselves. They'll be thinking about for their own careers, which is a short career as well. And they'll want to be getting back to, if they think they're good enough to be there, which they're not proven for Newcastle as they are at this moment in time, but they'll want to be playing at the top of the league, the top competitions that they can possibly be in. Then go back to the other question, the second question. I think Eddie has to mix it up. Yeah, we give it as an alternative in a way it is going 5-3-2. That was with Gordon in mind, up there with Isak. With Gordon, maybe I don't know if he ever would have considered it, but we have to be able to mix it up. It's becoming too predictable. Like every time as well. I put Miggy in the starting lineup when we were going 4-3-3. This is something to make it a bit different. But you can see every time Miggy has the ball, you can see him thinking. You know what he's going to do, kind of thing as well. We've become too predictable. So I think, yes, we should be mixing things up and giving. And we even said it last year. And I know I saw another question coming up here about a number 6, a defensive midfielder. We need to have these options that we can tweak things game on game and in game as well. Sticking to the rigid, try it, and if it doesn't work, try it again. If it doesn't work, try it again. And it is frustrating at times.
Yeah, and Pete, obviously original questions, but Daz has thrown me a curveball there. An additional little question for you. No, I love it, Daz. Additional little question as well as the originals. Is Eddie Howe capable, or is Eddie Howe willing to shake it up, would be the question.
I worked through. So, no, Anthony Gordon won't be regretting his contract.
That's the first one, mate.
His face will be more so disappointment that he's not available to make a difference on the pitch. That's ultimately what his face would have been. And it doesn't look like he'll be available on Wednesday. Maybe even Saturday either. So we're probably hoping that Forest is the next time that we see him. Because if they're going for a scan tomorrow, there's no way he's available for Wednesday, and it's not likely he'll be available for Arsenal, maybe at a push. But I don't see that. I think Gordon's here for at least another season after this one, with his contract in place. I don't think anyone will pay the fee to get him out of the club. It's as simple as that. And I don't think he wants to. I think he's already talked about how happy he is. I can't say the same for Alexander Isak. I do believe Bruno Guimaraes will stay for at least another season, but I can't say the same for Alexander Isak. Just because I think the interest in him will be too great, because there are not many top strikers around. And look, for as much as I've kind of pointed the finger at Alexander Isak today, and particularly at Brighton, because he's our elite player and he hasn't performed to the level, he's still a quality player and he will be scoring goals soon. And because there's not many of them in Europe, teams will want him. So he's the big question mark for me, not Gordon. The second question, it's I've forgotten it now.
Oh, it's the start of that question, Pete.
Oh, right,
Start of
okay.
that one.
Done playing for the manager? No, I don't think they are. They always talk about how much they respect Eddie Howe and they enjoy playing for him. So I don't think it'll be an issue. But I do believe that there needs to be an alternative way of playing. So the five at the back that we talked about on away days, Daz, I do think not necessarily today, but I do think in some games that should be a consideration. Maybe more away from home. I think we've got the players to do it with Tino and Hall that are both natural wing backs that we talked about on away days. I think we've got players that can play that position. But ultimately, Daz, you touched on exactly the key point that I was going to make. We need a defensive midfielder. If we're going to play this style of football, we need a defensive midfielder that's going to break up play. And I think that is the big transition with this formation. I genuinely do believe that. I think, we talked on it a year and a half ago about having a number 6 coming in and being that kind of ball breaker and stopping everything from being able to get through. This is part of the problem, is that our attacking players, I actually thought Joe Linton played quite well today. I thought he had a really good game. I liked what I saw from him. He reminded me of what I saw when we finished 4th. But the problem is that we need him at the opposite end of the pitch, breaking up play on counter-attacks as much as we need him driving forward and alternating on that left-hand side, which we saw a lot of today, and I really enjoyed what I saw. But the problem is that we wouldn't need him as much if we had a defensive midfielder, someone to break up that play left and right and to stop their counter-attacks. Cole Palmer doesn't get on the ball and influence the game as much having that type of player in there, because they do it to us. They had Lavia and they had Casado that effectively did that role as a kind of like alternative pivot in that position. And they did it effectively really well. They stopped us playing in those tight positions. They didn't allow us to get on the ball as much as we would have liked in those tight areas. We haven't got that. And that goes back to the point last January when Edison was linked and you go, there's your guy. He should still be the guy that we go for in January or in the summer, wherever it is, but we're missing that type of player. So I do think Eddie Howe needs to be brave. He needs to go away from it. The problem is Eddie Howe is like a number of other managers at the moment that are stuck in their ways. They have their style of play and they don't transition from it. And I'm not talking about Eddie Howe. Some of the top managers in the world deviate from it, but he's going to need to if we're going to be able to pick up points where we're maybe not expected to. And the last point you mentioned, Chris, sorry.
The last point, mate, was will Eddie Howe deviate? Can he and will he in terms of this 4-3-3?
I don't believe so. I don't believe he will. I think it will always be 4-3-3 because that's what he plays. But he can maybe change it by bringing in personnel that's very specific to that type of position. So bringing in a number 6, for example, would be a massive step in doing that. You might not need that number 6 every game, but bringing them on or playing them in games away from home would be crucial. And I think we'd pick up more points doing it.
Right. I'm going to come to a couple of questions and then I'll wrap up with 2 final questions. So I'll just read a couple out. So Harple says, where's our world-class scouting network? Didn't we overhaul our recruitment with best in class? We did, Harple. And this is what we're hoping to see in January. This is what we're hoping to see. Will we see it? I don't know. But yeah, I think it was made quite public that Paul Mitchell was very much playing an overseeing role in the summer just gone. But he earns his crust in January, as far as I'm concerned. And, Pete mentioned it earlier. We need to bring in minimum 2, possibly 3 first team ready players. Now, will Paul Mitchell provide that? Will Paul Mitchell, be able to give us, what we're looking for? Hopefully so. Will Eddie toe the line? We'll have to see. Will they both agree? Who knows? But yeah, I think it'll be this January where we see this. Sorry, Daz, go on, mate.
If it's not this January, what the fuck are we waiting for? We want to be number one. You remember Yasser saying that? We're sitting on a pile of money. We're sitting on a pile of money that we can't use. Never mind the money we can use. We're landed in mid-table. If we don't pull the trigger on spending on players, whether Eddie wants them or not, if Eddie doesn't want them, as we said earlier, on your bike, Eddie, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But it's time to get moving, lads.
Oh, it is, absolutely. And I don't want to touch too long on this one, but I know we've got to talk about it because, again, it was a problem, and I think, Daz, you alluded to it slightly earlier, but Vic Flange, love that name, by the way. Vic Flange says, I watched Sunday League out the back of my house, and the set pieces are better. Yeah. And Samsonite Dub also says, has Tonali pissed in Tyndall's tea or something? Why is our best set piece taken on the pitch not taking a single set piece?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
I don't know either.
Honestly, our best mover for set pieces was Nick Pope today. Nick Pope, when he came up for that corner at the end of the game, he's the only player that I've seen make a run to the near post.
I know when he tried to go for it, didn't he? Yeah.
He needed on the end of it. Why are we not trying anything different? Why?
Yeah.
You know what? When we had that free kick on the edge of the area, you had Tonali standing over it, you had Shaw standing over it, and you had Lewis Hall. You've just mentioned why didn't Tonali take it? I was asking the question why Lewis Hall didn't take it. Lewis Hall technically is just as good as the other two, if not better.
Yeah.
So why is he not whipping that into the other corner? Because if you watch it again, Sanchez doesn't move. And if he gets it over the wall, he scores. And he's capable of doing it. We've already seen his quality when he can hit the target.
He can hit the ball, yeah.
Ultimately, we just need to do something different. Just give please, just give the opposition something else to think about rather than this just ball to Dan Burn that he never gets anything decent on. Like, just please, just give us something. We get enough corners. We get enough free kicks. Just please.
50, scored 0.
Yeah. I'm gonna read one more out, boys, and then I'm gonna go with 2 more questions, and then we'll wrap up. So, Jack says, "Does anyone else agree it's been downhill since Amanda left?" To be honest, Jack, I think things have gone a little bit downhill since Amanda left, but I wouldn't necessarily coincide her leaving with the performances on the pitch. I don't think that's had a real impact. Maybe it has behind the scenes. Who really knows? But I mean, to be fair, none of us know. But it's a fair point, mate. It is a fair point. The timing does marry up quite well, I must admit. But I want to ask you, boys. Where is it? Yeah, John Noble. Interesting one. If we got offered 120 million for Isak, and I'm going to slightly change this. If we got offered 120 million for Isak in January, should we accept it?
In January? No.
Not in January.
You both know.
Then we might be getting relegated if we start doing stupid things like that.
Not halfway through the season.
Okay, well, let's go summer then. We'll go summer.
I let them start with that bid and a bid more and move it up close to 150 if he wants to go.
You talk about would I accept it, or do you think, or would the club accept it?
Give me answer to both, Pete, because I can see why you've split it up.
If Newcastle United get 120 million bid in the summer for Alexander Isak, I think they accept it. And the reason why I think they accept it, and it could all change between now, end of October and the summer. But the reason why I think that they would accept it is, for me, I think they'll be looking at that situation and going, right, we can properly reinvest in the squad and make all the changes that we potentially want to make with that in all of the positions. And they can potentially move players on that they probably weren't able to move on previously. That would see us for the next 2 or 3 windows in terms of being able to properly strengthen. So I think from that point they would probably accept. As well as that, as an addition, I do think that Alexander Isak, depending on the club, would then say, I'd like to go. I genuinely think that would happen. And for a lad that's going to turn 26 next year, I think there is going to be a point where we're going to have that conversation. He's going to look at his career and go, yeah, if I've got a team that's regularly in the Champions League fighting for a title in whatever league it is, do I accept it now? I might not get that chance again. And I think that'll be part of that conversation. Would I accept it? All depends on how he performs this season. He's not started well. I think if he goes on and scores another 25 goals this season and gets his European football, then no, I don't accept it. I keep him.
Do you know what, Pete? I'm going to jump in here. This is so fascinating. I don't know if you boys have seen it in the chat. We've literally got like a 50-50 split. Like, there's people in the chat saying, yeah, of course you'd accept it. You know, it will allow us to build the club. It'll allow us to kick on. Then there's other people who raise very fair points saying, well, we'd have no strikers, which is a very, very fair point.
Yeah.
People are saying everyone's got the price. It's literally split down the middle. There's people saying no, there's people saying more. But I'm going to bring this one up from Vic Flange. And he says, wow, Sostars and lads, love you all, but no way at the end of the season we're getting anywhere near 100 million for Isak. Cash in Jan and still be lucky to get 100. Do you think it would have to be over 100 in order for Newcastle to be tempted?
Pete alluded to it earlier, the lack of quality strikers, and that based on previous we're going here, available in the market, we'd definitely get 100 million. Arsenal put that in now, so we're definitely getting over 100 million.
He's got apparently, I think he's got still 3.5 years left on his contract. So Newcastle United for the next year and a half don't have to accept anything. When he gets into his 2 years, so at the end of the season 2026, summer 2026 is where you're really having to have that conversation. A bit like what happened with Gordon this summer. He was getting to his 2-year mark. We had to have the conversation. He signed a new deal. Newcastle United obviously want to keep him, and the longer the contract, the more money they can demand and all the rest of it. And this is why it goes into another conversation. Like, we won't get into it tonight, but it's ultimately this is, you know, when the stuff came out with Isak and his contract in the press conference, you know, and it's a case of Newcastle have not gone back and continued the conversation. Why did they need to? If Alexander Isak signs a contract, he's probably going to sign it and have a release clause. That doesn't necessarily benefit us, and it takes the power away from Newcastle United. But if he doesn't sign a new contract, the power is still with us as a club, because there's no clause, and the team that tries to sign him in the summer are going to have to pay top dollar. So it actually fits Newcastle's situation. It actually helps Newcastle for Isak not to sign the contract, because we hold the cards.
Yeah.
If we don't like the color of the money and how much they're offering, we don't have to sell. We don't. Whereas if you've got then a release clause, he might be contracted to 2030. But if he's got a release clause, there's nothing we can do. We're almost waiting for the team to put the money down and go, there you go. And then we can only move them. If we're going to sell in the summer, we can go, hold on. We may consider your bid, and we go away and go, right, what strikers available? Let's go put 60 million down on Gokeres or 70 million down on Gokeres, or I'm giving an example here, or somebody else. Let's go and get our striker first. Let's make sure that we've got what we need. In fact, you know what? Wilson's gone. Let's go get 2. Let's go and get our strikers in so we're properly set for the next season. Then we go, off you go. Go to whoever you want to go to. We hold the cards here. We're in the position where we hold the narrative. And I actually think that's not a bad thing for Newcastle United to be in. So I was a bit like, oh, he's not in contract talks, or this is not good. It's not good. And then I thought about it. I thought, actually, no. That's not a bad position for us to be in.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Pete, because look at, like, Man City could sell Holland to Real Madrid or something, and they know already what they have to pay to bring Isak in that type of a kind of situation when the release clause is in. inbuilt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Last question, boys. Last question, and it goes back to the fixtures, I'm afraid. But I want a solid answer from you now. Okay. Tom Dixon asks: Newcastle versus Arsenal, Forest versus Newcastle, Newcastle versus West Ham. So we've got Arsenal at home, Forest away, West Ham at home. How many points from those 3 games, boys?
Chest out, 6 points.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm with you, Daz. 6 points. Yeah.
I'm gonna say 4.
Yeah. Four's the smart move.
What's the shit house move?
Not being smart. We're going for it. You know what? Let's go 9. 9 points. Come on.
10. Go for the 10. One for luck.
But no, listen, everyone in the chat, put in your scores for those 3 games, as Tom says. Arsenal at home, Forest away, West Ham at home, and we'll try and whack them all up while we're going through our usuals. So no, thank you very much. And listen, everyone, I put it in our private chat before. Brilliant questions tonight. Absolutely brilliant questions. Yes, we didn't get the result we wanted today, but thank you so much to everyone for tuning in. It's been absolutely wonderful. And Daz, I'm going to hand back over to you, mate.
Boys, can I just put this up? Because
yeah, go for it.
On the Midlands chat, as big up to Az putting this in our chat. I just want to put this on just as a bit of a perspective here as we're talking about January and signing players. This was put out on socials. Remember, we've not spent any money improving our first 11 for 2 windows straight. We have a positive net spend in the same period. Those particular clubs have spent that amount of money in that time. So all the clubs that we're effectively fighting up against, and Forest will be up there because they've spent a bit of money too. They're not on that list. But all those teams that we're in a battle with, that's how much they've spent in the period that we have effectively spent nothing. You know, we knew we had to buy Lewis Hall. We got Kelly. The money from Blackademos is neither here nor there. But in terms of money to invest in the first team players, that's what they've all spent in comparison to us. It's a significant amount of money, and you know there is a perspective there. People don't like perspective sometimes, but just to kind of end it on a positive, you know, we're still in that mix, considering that those clubs around us have spent significantly more money than us, and that's where we need to play catch up in January, and that's what we all hope happens. So,
yeah,
right. I just want to say that.
It's good perspective there, Pete.
Right, that is the end of the show. We will be back during the week. Make sure you smash that like button on the way out. Make sure you subscribe if you're new as well. Oh, there's another thing from Pete. Go on, go.
No. I've just realised we've got a cracking away days. I've not even told you boys around about. Yeah.
Ian Wright, is it?
I wish. But no, it is an ex-Newcastle United player coming to join us.
Oh,
on Thursday. So yeah, coming to join us along with Dan Potts for the away days preview. So yeah, coming to that.
It's not Mikel Medina, was it?
Is there a connection to Arsenal?
There is, and I didn't realise there was.
There has.
There is. I didn't realise there was.
I was going to say, surely there has to be, but the fact that you didn't realise there was would say, oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't know there was either. But we'll talk outside of the show. People, keep your eyes peeled to YouTube,
Joe Willock,
Instagram for the show. Big one plan. It's cool.
Right. We might find out beforehand. Pete may tell us. You never know. Right, that is it. Give us 150 million and we'll still say no, and we still won't change that spelling mistake. Good night, everyone.